Welcome back. It's Bree with 6 Hearts on 6 Acres. Today we're going to talk about what you need to know to successfully grow plants for your garden from seed. I've grown hundreds of plants, probably maybe up into the thousands now, of plants from seed from my garden, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first tip that I want to give you today is to use the right size container when you start. It's a half of a 72 cell tray, so this is a 36. But you want to start out with just something small. These are, I don't know, a little over an inch deep and about an inch wide. You don't want to go too big because then you're going to get too much moisture in your seed starting mix and you're going to have problems with damping off and fungal problems. So make sure and start small and let your seed just have a little area that they have to grow into to start with. The next tip I want to give you is to use the right medium. So you want to use a seed starting mix, not a potting soil to start your plants off. Seed starting mix, number one, it doesn't have any nutrition in it because your plants don't need nutrition at the seedling size. And number two, it's really fine and loose and it doesn't have big chunks of compost in it that's not broken down yet. So it's pretty much free of any big pieces of wood or sticks or anything like that that would deter your roots from really growing all over the entire area of soil that you've given them. So I'm going to start by just filling up my container with soil. I say soil. It's actually seed starting mix and it has no dirt in it whatsoever, which is why there's no nutrition to it. Just want to fill up each of your spaces. So you're going to notice that my seed starting mix is super dry. That brings me to my next tip is you don't ever want to put seeds into a dry seed starting mix. You want to moisten that before you put your seeds in. You do that because as you get this soil wet, it doesn't like water. So for one, it takes quite a bit of water to get it wet in the first place. Whoops, that is my broken one. It takes quite a bit of soil to get it wet in the first place, and putting that much water in there can, one, move your seed around, two, it can get it to an incorrect depth. So we'll get this tray full and then we will get it wet. So you see how when you get it wet, that dirt just kind of goes everywhere. The water puddles up. You don't want that, obviously, once your seeds are in there. So we're just going to get it really nice and moist right now. And then once that water soaks in, that's when we will add our seeds. The next tip I'm going to give you is to make sure that you sow your seeds the correct depth. Different seeds need to be planted at different depths. Some seeds, such as alyssum, need light to germinate, and so they just go on top of the soil and don't even go deep at all. But other seeds, such as basil, go into the soil like you would think of most seeds. But how you know how deep you want to plant it is, one, you can look at the back of your package and it tells you how deep you want to plant it. But another just kind of rule of thumb is that you plant your seeds twice as deep as they are big. So basil seeds, which is what I'm planting in this tray here today, are pretty small. You can see if you can see them. They're pretty small, and so they don't go deep at all. So I'm going to show you how I put these seeds in the ground, or I'm sorry, into my seed containers, and we'll go from there. So I am just making a very, very small indention. You don't want it deep at all for basil seeds because they are so small. And then I am just going to sprinkle just a few seeds in each hole. And then I will just very lightly cover that up. My seed starting mix is already very wet, so it does not need to be watered. Seeds germinate fastest when they are warm. So anytime I start seeds, I put them on a warming mat. Because I start seeds in my basement, it's pretty chilly down here, and these warming mats raise the temperature, I don't know, about 10 to 15 degrees. And so your seeds will germinate much quicker with something like this. If you're starting seeds in your living area where you already keep it pretty warm, this isn't going to be as important for you, but it is still something that's nice to have for quicker germination. So I like to lay this down. I put all of my trays into what's called a 10-20 tray. This is so that I can keep my seeds bottom watered. I don't like to water the top. This is something that's optional, but it makes watering easier. And if you don't have your seeds in something like this, when you water that, there's obviously holes on the bottom, so that water is going to come through and make a mess. So you do really want them sitting in something. It doesn't have to be a 10-20 tray. It could literally be like a baking sheet or just anything that you have laying around that will hold and contain water. This is what I use. So I'm going to put that on my heating mat. And then I have my freshly sown seeds. I'm going to put that inside this tray. And then the last thing I like to add is a dome. This is going to keep my seeds consistently moist and not let those dry up before the seeds germinate. If you don't have domes, you can use plastic wrap. That works just as well. But I'm going to dome these seeds until they germinate. Once they do germinate, you want to take this dome off to make sure that you don't cause any fungal issues. And then because some of the seeds that I sown needed light to germinate, I will keep my lights on. If they did not need light to germinate, I would be comfortable turning that off and then making sure that as soon as those seeds sprout, the light comes on, because you do not want leggy seedlings. It is important to have good lights to grow seedlings. You can do it if you have like a really sunny window. I don't have a spot in my house that I have an area to start seedlings that gets consistent sun. So lights are a requirement for me to grow the amount of seedlings that I do. But if you're just growing a few and you have a really sunny window, that will work. If not, lights are super awesome to have, and they're not expensive. You don't need those fancy grow lights. These are LED shop lights, and what I have up here is just like garage shop lights from Lowe's. So this is my setup. This is what I use, and it's what works best for me. All right, so your seedlings are up and you have plants, and I want to show you up close. Once your plants have true leaves, so we'll look at this one. When they have leaves that look like the plant that you planted, these first two leaves they get are called cotyledon. And your cotyledon have enough energy to bring that seed up through the soil to sprout and to grow these true leaves. So once you have these true leaves, they now need moved out of your 72 cell trays and out of your seed starting mix, because remember it had no nutrients in it, and you want to move them into a larger container so they have room to grow a large amount of roots and to grow big, but also into potting mix that has nutrition in it. So I already have these prepared. These are 3-inch containers that I purchased off of Amazon. Your plants will come out of these cells easier if they are wet. So I already went ahead and watered them for the day. And I am just going to loosen that plant and that soil out of that spot. You can kind of squeeze the bottom, and then by the stem, you are going to really lightly and gently kind of tease it out of its place with as many roots intact as possible. So I have my plant, I have a long stem of the root, and I'm going to move that into one of my larger containers just by making a deep hole. These that I'm transplanting right now are marigolds, and marigolds don't need to be buried deep. So put it about the same depth as it was in your 72 cell tray, you want it about the same depth in this larger container. Now this little marigold plant has plenty of room to grow a great healthy root system so that it is ready to be moved into your garden. I'm going to finish out with this tray of marigolds, and I'll meet you back for the next step. I do want to show you really quick, on some plants that I do, like peppers or tomatoes, mostly vegetables, I like to separate them out into one seedling per cup. This one you see has 3 plants here, and I'm going to leave it like that. It is going to grow fine. There's still plenty of room in this cup for all 3 of these marigolds to grow. It's going to save me room under my grow lights. It's going to save me time from having to separate each of these. And then when I put them into my garden, depending on how they look, I may leave them together like this, or I may separate them. I just noticed I have a chicken outside of the thing. Let me get it before my dog eats it. Well, that did not work out too well. All of the chickens are out, but I have the dog tied up, so none of them will get eaten today. We're gonna let them have one more day out in this beautiful sunshine weather. I don't like to let them out this time of the year because they scratch up the garden a lot, and I already have seeds in there that I do not want scratched up, but they're out, so I'm gonna let them have this one last day. I hope I encourage you today to grow your own garden in your own backyard and harvest your own food for your family. It brings me so much joy, and I know that it will for you as well. Have a great day, and God bless.